everyone for attending our webinar today, Powering the Future with All Electric Terminal Trucks. Again, you will be muted throughout the presentation. So if you have a question, please put it in the question feature and go to, and we will get to it at the end. There we go. So before we get started and dive into the presentation, I wanted to give a quick overview of what we'll cover today. First, my name's Emily Wolf, and I'm with Metropolitan Energy Center. I'm a public relations coordinator, and I manage both policy and communication activities in both our buildings and transportation programs, which I'll share more about in a moment. And then we'll hear from my teammate Darian about Clean Cities, that program, as well as some upcoming funding opportunities. We'll hear from Laser Logistics about their experience deploying all-electric terminal trucks. We'll hear from Julie Dietrich from Evergy, one of Kansas City's electric utility, about best practices for implementing charging infrastructure. And then we'll hear from Dave Hill, Kansas City's very own Orange EV, who was the first company in the U.S. to deploy all-electric Class 8 trucks. And so he will talk a little bit about their payback period as well as rental and lease programs. We're very grateful for all of our speakers. They are great partners on several of our projects throughout the Kansas City region. So a little bit about our organization, Metropolitan Energy Center, MEC. So we've been around since 1983. We were founded originally working with residents in the Kansas City area, helping them improve the energy efficiency of their homes and buildings. And we continue this through our Energy Solutions Hub, working with residents, business owners, and municipalities across the region. And we also have a Project Living Proof historical demonstration home located right off the Country Club Plaza here in Kansas City. We give tours for residents about how to make their homes more efficient, comfortable, and safe, even if they're older homes, like Project Living Proof. And then we'll hear from Darian about our Clean Cities program. And as you hear, we are the connecting thousands of residents, businesses, and municipalities through funding, mostly through the EPA and Department of Energy, so they can implement these technologies, training, and best practices to make their homes, businesses, and our communities cleaner and healthier. So a little bit about our Energy Solutions Hub. One thing we do is we provide continuing education unit training to local building and industry stakeholders regarding the energy code. Some of you may all be familiar that Kansas City, Missouri was one of the first municipalities in the region to recently pass the 2021 Energy Code. And so we want to make sure our building officials and stakeholders are prepared, so we continue to provide this training at no cost and for CEUs. One thing interesting about the Kansas City, Missouri Code is it does require new buildings and homes to be EV ready, seeing more of an overlap between both programs as businesses and residents are installing things like electric vehicle charging or even solar. We also work with Children's Mercy Hospital. We're finding more there's a significant correlation regarding our homes and our health. Our homes keep outdoor pollutants from coming in and preventing mold that wreak havoc on our health, and they also help filter out, cleaning supplies, things of that nature, indoor pollutants. And so we have a Healthy Homes program with Children's Mercy Hospital where we do workshops for residents and local contractors. So if you're interested, we'd love to bring a Healthy Home training to your community. And we also published a study recently with Children's Mercy and UMKC that we found that homes that were weatherized, children in those homes who had asthma saw a significant decrease in their visits through the asthma. So again, if you'd like to learn more about that project, we'd love to share. And one more item I want to highlight here on the left is we have a Mid-America Codes Collaborative. And so this is another Department of Energy grant where we're going to be doing the workforce, Kansas and Missouri, rural, urban, in suburban areas on how to, these buildings policies are being passed to make our buildings and homes more efficient. So this is to train a workforce to be able to have those type of jobs where they are improving the homes and buildings where we work, either new builds or retrofits. And so if you'd like to learn about any more of our projects on the building side, I'm happy to share more after follow up with you all and sign up for our newsletter as well. But again, we'll send these slides out and resources, and happy to connect if you have more questions regarding any of our buildings programs. But I know most of you here today are for transportation. Hand it over to Darian to talk about our Clean Cities program.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Clean Cities Coalition and Communities was created in 1993 for us out of the Energy Policy Act of 92. Department of Energy's Vehicle Technology Office. There are 70 plus coalitions nationwide. It provides a framework for business and government agencies to work together. Since 1993, Clean Cities coalitions have offset nearly 10 billion gallons of petroleum. As you see within our frame is a map of where the coalition stand within the United States. Next slide, please. Here are some of the things that we have done within our Clean Cities Coalition. We have the Beam Solar EV Charger that is in Olathe. We have the EV streetlight chargers here in the downtown Kansas City area. We have deployed all electric shuttle buses at the KCI airport, deployed electric yard trucks within Kansas and Missouri. We also have EV for water services, general services, and neighborhood and housing services here within the Kansas City, Missouri area. Upcoming funding opportunities for within the Clean Cities Coalition is the DARA Act, is Diesel Emissions Reduction Act. MEC has managed 7 DARA programs since 2015. Eligible vehicles, Class 5 to 8 on-road diesel truck, marina engines, yard trucks, locomotives, construction and other off-road equipment, generators, and pumps. Eligible technologies or vehicle replacement, engine replacement, or repowering, marina shore, power, parking electrification, aerodynamics, engine upgrades, and alternative fuel conversions. Eligible DARA fuels, diesel, CNG gas, LNG gas, propane, electric. However, this RFA will be electric only with an emphasis in hostlers and school and transit buses. Funding/timing plus minus 1.7 million in federal support RFA around the beginning of October, up to 45% of vehicle costs eligible for reimbursement. To be notified when funding is available, please sign up for our newsletter at metroenergy.org/newsletter-sign up.
Thanks, Darian. Yeah, as Darian mentioned, stay tuned. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll send the link out after this to be notified about when this funding opportunity is available, as well as others that we offer through our Clean Cities program to bring one of the project examples he shared or another one to your own community. But now I will go ahead and hand it over to Chris from Laser Logistics.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be with you all, and I want to offer a thank you to MEC, who's been an absolutely wonderful partner of ours from a grant perspective over the last few years. Just a little bit about myself and about Laser and our background before I dive into today's topic around electric yard trucks. My name is Chris Bennett. I'm the Director of EV at Laser Logistics, also Head of Sustainability for the organization. And Laser Logistics is North America's largest dedicated yard management provider. We operate in more than 40 states in the US, as well as multiple provinces throughout Canada. So we have a great deal of reach and scope when we talk about fleet size, when we talk about Class 8 vehicles, whether it's over the road in a traditional day cab shuttle capacity. We also have a drayage division, a gate division, trailer rental division, and then within our fleet, we have an electric vehicle program, which we're going to talk about here today. So from an EV perspective, to give you an idea of where our journey began and where we are today, we began the EV journey with our yard hostlers or yard tractors or terminal tractors or goats, whatever term of art you prefer. We started purchasing those a little over 7 years ago. We purchased some of the first fully battery electric yard tractors out there that were produced by Orange EV, who you're going to hear from later today. They've been a great manufacturing partner of ours over the years and continue to be. And since we took those first 3 trucks from Orange EV, we've expanded our fleet significantly. And over the last 7.5 years, we've accrued more than 1.5 million zero emission miles. And when you think about that in context of what a yard tractor does, which is staying generally off-road in a DC or fulfillment center or manufacturing plant environment, our trucks see a very high utilization rate. So the engine is constantly running. So in a diesel, the engine's constantly going, or in an EV, the key is almost always in the on position. But you don't actually accrue that many miles around one of those facilities. So if you think about how much time you have to operate one of these trucks, and then in aggregate to be able to reach 1.5 million zero emission miles, and those are tailpipe zero emission miles, it really is quite phenomenal. It's a tremendous amount of work. It goes to just a fantastic group of folks throughout the value chain in the battery electric space, from our OEM partners all the way through to our drivers and ultimately our service technicians. So what has that allowed us to do? Very importantly, it's allowed us to significantly displace both CO2 being released into the atmosphere, and also significantly reduced our hydrocarbon footprint in terms of the number of gallons of diesel that we would need to normally use to operate our fleet. So just with the EVs that we've rolled out in the last 7.5 years, we've displaced more than 20 million pounds of CO2, and more than 900,000 gallons of diesel have been avoided. And that's really just a phenomenal number there. We're knocking on the door by the end of this year of 2 million zero emission miles. So we're really, really proud of that. Specifically, when we talk about the area that MEC primarily serves, where we have been able to leverage some grant programs through MEC, and we look at EPA Region 7, right? So if we look at Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri, we've got 15 battery electric spotters operating in the Midwest today. And when you look at 4 state regions, it's actually the region with the second largest number of EVs in our network. And some folks that I talk to say, well, that seems kind of counterintuitive. We would expect EVs to maybe be more heavily deployed along the coastlines, et cetera. But what we found is that the adoption within the Midwest has been phenomenal. Our drivers absolutely love them. Our customers absolutely love them. And when you talk about operating efficiency and you talk about climate, which we'll get to here in a moment in more detail, the Midwest is actually a wonderful climate for battery electrics when you talk about the operating range in terms of ambient temperature, which I'll go into here in just a second. So if we want to go to the next slide, EVs in general, what I like to say is, in most cases, and I'm going to specifically relate this to terminal tractors, that almost anything that a diesel can do, a battery electric terminal tractor can do as well or better, with very rare exception. In a lot of cases, it's that or better than their diesel counterparts. They're really that phenomenal of a technology platform. So what do they do? Number one, obviously, no tailpipe emissions. So that's a significant benefit, not only for the environment, but also for air quality. So one of the things that I touch on constantly is how much we're able to clean up the air in the communities in which we operate and that our customers operate. This is the air that we breathe every single day, right? And so removing those lower air pollutants from the atmosphere, just better for everybody's overall health. And then these EVs have significant telematics systems on board that allow you to very quickly and in near real time capture a variety of data points that allow you to estimate and then ultimately report out your emissions reduction, reporting against your goals, how much reduction of hydrocarbon and with respect to diesel that you've been able to essentially eliminate by operating EVs. They obviously have a significant public image benefit for anybody looking to either improve air quality or improve their environmental footprint, or both. And then, what are some of the operating benefits? I get asked this question all the time. Why EV? Can EV do what a diesel can do? Can it do it better? So I started off by saying, yes, it can. And we've got the experience to back that up. So when we talk about the operating benefits specifically, number one, these are much safer and healthier trucks for our drivers to operate and for the personnel at our clients or our customer sites. So when you think about a diesel truck, you're thinking about a truck that typically has a lot of vibration, a great deal of heat coming up from the engine compartment through the floor of the cab, tend to be very noisy. So if you operate in an environment where there's, let's say, a residential community nearby where you operate that terminal tractor, a diesel capacity, you might be irritating the residences nearby. With an EV, you have zero noise associated with them. You have zero or near zero vibration in the cab. You have a cab environment that is very comfortable to operate in as a driver. And very importantly, from an environmental standpoint, it's not just air quality, it's also how are we ensuring that we don't have leaks of fluids. And when you talk about EVs, they do not have the kind of fluid profile that you see in a diesel. You don't have transmission fluid. You don't have engine oil, things that have to be replaced on a regular basis and that are susceptible to spills and leaks. You also are essentially eliminating, in great part, the opportunity for driver injury around those types of fluids, whether they be slips and falls, etc. So there's some significant safety benefits there. And then when we talk about driver satisfaction, I will tell you that when I go out and we implement EVs at a site, there's always one or two drivers typically who will say, look, I'm a gearhead. I grew up, driving diesels, driving a stick. This is a big rolling computer. I just don't know how I feel about this. I'd really prefer to stick with the diesel. We always ask them to get into the EV, give it a shot, give it a fair shake. And usually either by the end of that day or within a week or so, their attitude has changed from, I don't know that I really trust this or that I really want to operate this, to, actually, if I never have to go back into a diesel again, that would be really fantastic. We'd like to really continue to operate the EV. And there's a variety of reasons for that. I've touched on many of those around being able to control their cabin environment and having that near zero vibration. But at the end of the day, they can finish their shift and they're just physically not fatigued, and they haven't been bombarded with the noise associated with a diesel truck. So they absolutely love the operating profile of these trucks. And then when we talk about maintenance and repair, so anybody listening to this that's in fleet management, I can tell you that our maintenance and repair costs for an EV yard tractor versus a diesel is really night and day. We've seen, somewhere on the order of around 50% reduction in maintenance and repair costs, and that's over long term. So we're not just talking about, during the warranty period or immediately after. These trucks have been operating, like I said, for more than 7 years. And so we've got significant operating data outside of the traditional warranty period that shows that the M&R on these trucks is significantly better. We also see much higher uptime with EVs versus their diesel counterparts, which is obviously very, very significant for any fleet, but especially in a fleet like ours, where we are essentially in a no-fail business. If one of our trucks goes down at a customer site, we can take down a manufacturing plant, we can take down an entire distribution or fulfillment center, which can have significant knock-on effects throughout their supply chain. So unlike a a standard Class A vehicle operating over the road, if it breaks down, there's typically one load behind that. It can certainly be a challenge, but it may not be catastrophic. We cannot afford to go down. And so, I think more than anything, the fact that we are continuing to invest in converting our fleet from diesel to EV just shows the conviction that we have based on the actual operating data that says that the EVs operate better and more efficiently and more cost effectively than their diesel counterparts. And certainly based on what we've seen to date, we think that that lasts into the future. And so anybody who will tell you today they know exactly how long an EV yard tractor is going to last in comparison to diesel is not being honest with you, because again, there's only about 7.5, 8 years worth of data out there, and we're on the very front or leading edge of that. So, while we don't know exactly how long they will last, the early indications, and I say early, that's 7 years, is that these trucks will last a very long time, even considering the battery packs that are associated with them that ultimately at some point will need to be replaced. We've certainly seen significant benefit from them. So that's what I had for you today. I again appreciate the opportunity to be with you, and if we do have a Q&A later on, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Chris. Those are all great points, and I don't think we can hit home enough the impact on drivers and the community, not just with these trucks, but, diesel school buses and all of them, the drivers who are driving them all day in the neighborhoods they are going through. So thank you so much for that, and we'll have Q&A. But now I'm going to hand it over to Julie Dietrich Evergy, another great project partner of ours who helps us get these all-electric yard trucks and other vehicles and chargers out in the communities. And I'll hand it over to you, Julie.
Thank you. Yes, I'm just kind of kicking this off with my contact information. My name's Julie Dietrich. I do work here at Evergy, and I am here to help fleet managers and facility managers understand what is needed well early on in the planning process for transitioning to electric, as far as capacity, updating, understanding the capacity at your locations, help facilitate the process to increase capacity at the locations, or just evaluating if you have different options where you can place these vehicles for charging. So I am a partner there with you. Many companies that are on the larger scale may have a dedicated point of contact that you work at with Evergy. And I would work alongside your key account manager to help get you what you need for fleet electrification projects. If you are a smaller company, I am definitely here as a resource to help facilitate what is needed across our organization to support your projects as well. I do have a counterpart on my team that also handles public charging infrastructure. So if you get to me or you get to any member of my team, that's not a problem. We work very closely together to make sure we have the right resource and, supporting you in your efforts. This is our footprint. Our service territory aligns very nicely with MEC's area that they support. We handle the Kansas City, Topeka, and Wichita metro areas. Another just point to note also, we talk a little bit about kind of our generation mix, and our generation mix is we're moving into the direction of reducing our carbon in our generation mix, and electric transportation works really well with how we our generation mix by time of day. So overnight we do have a lot of renewable or wind generation, and as you might know, many fleets will be charging overnight, and those two activities work really well together if carbon reduction is one of your key goals with electrifying fleets. Next slide. I'm not going to go into this in great detail, but really, in a nutshell, there's a lot of steps from going from step 1 to step 17 when you're planning out building out your charging infrastructure for fleets. We have aligned internally to understand, what tasks are there for customers to focus on and what part of the journey Evergy needs to step in and support. Preliminary design is not really a place that we've supported heavily in past, but we have learned with these commercial charging projects, having the utility involved early on in that preliminary planning really can kind of help streamline your ultimate goal. You don't change out fleet vehicles in a single year. This is a multi-year engagement, and your utility understanding what your short-term and long-term goals are for electrification can really help inform, the path that you are going to take with the vehicle charging. We do also offer rates and rebates for EV charging, and really there are terms and conditions to take advantage of both of those. One example of this is separately metered electric vehicle charging service, meaning all of your chargers are routed through a utility meter that's separated from the building. So if you do choose to take advantage of rates and rebates, having all of those considerations known up front is going to help you when you're designing that charging infrastructure for your site. Next slide. This is just one example. We do, like I mentioned earlier, serve both Kansas and Missouri. But in addition to understanding what capacity is needed to the meter or the TTM, we also offer rebates for behind the meter infrastructure. In order to take advantage of those, you do have to understand kind of all of the terms and conditions that go along with that, and that's what I'm here to help you understand or help support you. You do have to pick from equipment that is on an approved equipment list. I have worked with a number of projects where the equipment that they were planning on was not on our list, and we can work with charging manufacturers to get them qualified to be on our list, as long as they understand and meet all of the terms and conditions to be on our approved equipment list. In addition, the pre-approval is a very important step to understand when engaging with us and counting on this rebate to happen. So pre-approval is needed before your construction starts and before chargers are purchased. That way, before you make any investment into the charging infrastructure, you understand all of the terms and conditions, and then when you're ready to collect on that rebate, there's no surprises at the end. In addition to our rebate program, this is an example of the rate structure in Kansas for time of use. So as you can see, there's a summer rate, there is a winter rate. What you won't see is a demand charge, and that's what's going to be attractive for those getting started with their electrification effort. It makes it really easy to understand what the fuel requirement will be for charging these new vehicles with electric instead of gas. And as you can see, there's price signals based on the time of day that you would be charging your vehicles. And so understanding how to manage or optimize your charging around this rate structure is something that I can partner with you on as well. In Kansas, there is an optional carbon-free energy charge. So if carbon reduction is one of your key goals in the Kansas territories, you can take advantage of that option, and that just guarantees that all energy charged through, charging your vehicles are sourced by carbon-free sources. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to quickly hit on a tool that we offer to help you kind of do a very quick calculation of ROI for electric vehicles. So if you do go to evergy.com/fleets, you can access this tool. This is the first screen. Prior to getting this to the screen, it may ask you to just type your name and email address. What that does is it just lets me know who might be interested in these fleets, and if I have not connected with you, then I make sure to connect with you, and so that you're available, that you know that I'm available as a resource if you decide to move forward. Next slide. So creating a vehicle set, this is just the actual screenshot of the tool, the first screen that you're going to get. You're going to say how many vehicles you are wanting, the type of vehicle, and you can even drill down to the actual make of vehicle. In this instance, just for this example, we picked an orange EV terminal tractor. Next slide. It even helps you understand, okay, operationally, how many hours am I going to, I'm sorry, could you go back? There you go. How many hours am I going to operate this terminal tractor? You can see that there's two, you can add charging windows. So if you're going to be charging multiple times a day, and it will really plan out to make sure that you are selecting the level of charging that is needed to meet your operational needs. Next slide. This is a screenshot of like what the final output looks like to give you just a really high level overview of what that return on investment would look like. There's several different tabs. So if you want to drill into fuel costs, electrical demand, incentives that are available, it will connect you to all of that information through those tabs. There, you can kind of see overview is underscored right now. Along the top, it just gives you really the high level points of what you would expect by converting one terminal tractor to electric. So really just wanted to point this out. This is a free service that Evergy offers, and if you are interested in comparing, it's an available resource, and you can get to it at evergy.com/fleet. And I believe this is my last slide.
Thanks, Julie. That was super helpful and informative. I'm sure, as you all know, it's one thing easy to buy the vehicle, but making sure you have the right charging infrastructure is where it can get a little more complicated and overwhelming. So glad to know Julie and others are your resource, and we'll send out the link as well. But thank you so much. That was extremely informative. Before we open it up for Q&A, we have one more presenter. We'll hear from Darren Hill with Orange EV. Go ahead and hand it over to you, Darren.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Darren Hill. I'm the sales team manager for the Central U.S. From the northern border down to the southern border, we have a team that is deployed throughout that area that I'm responsible for, which obviously includes Kansas and Missouri, which we're I think all the speakers we're talking about today. Very excited to be on. Thank you. I will say that the advertisement that we got through Chris Bennett, his comments with Laser and Julie's with Evergy, there's not much more I need to say, but there are a few things that I'll cover from a higher level area, and but the comments are well accepted. Thank you. We are the #1 electric terminal truck manufacturer in the world, We have roughly about 80% of the market share. There's 1,200 trucks, a little over 1,200 trucks now deployed out in the United States and Canada. We were founded in 2012. We're based in Kansas City. We sold our first truck in 2015, so we had 3 years of research and development to get it right, and we keep improving year over year as we move forward with our team of 80 engineers on staff. We moved into a brand new facility in Kansas City middle of June of last year, 440,000 square foot. So our production line is manual, and trucks flow through. Everything's built, put together right in Kansas City. Our focus is EV completely. I know a lot of companies will do both. They'll do diesel and electric. That is not what we do. We're focused on EV and excited to be in that space. We do, from a service standpoint, we offer a system-wide service support team, and we'll hire local technicians across the United States, depending on where our trucks have been deployed. They are EV trained and EV employees, Orange EV employees. So we're excited to have that as well. And then our uptime is important to point out. We're roughly at 98% uptime on our trucks. As Chris had mentioned, the uptime is considerably higher. If you look at the diesels, they're roughly averaging 75% uptime throughout their processes. Our trucks also have telematics in them that we can pull on a monthly basis to provide to our customer, so we can check how the truck is doing. We can see, the state of charge, has it been charging? And there's a multitude of items that you can check on the trucks, so we can catch something maybe in advance of something going wrong with it, if it did. We do have 275 customers within that 1,200 trucks deployed. And then we do have a truck in the Caribbean, I want to note as well. The chemistry of our batteries, it's a lithium iron phosphate. There's no hard metals in it, no nickel, no cobalt. The batteries is and the production of the truck combined is what makes it a superior product. And on the battery portion themselves, we offer a 7.5-year warranty on those batteries. They like to be either turned on, running, or charging. There's no memory in them, so you can move through those processes and not have any hiccups from a battery standpoint. So you can go ahead and flip that screen for me. This gives a graph of our 275 customers, and you can see how our first truck deployed to DHL just at the end of 2015. So we're coming up on 9 years. That I will point out that DHL truck is on the original battery packs, as well as all of our trucks. We've never had a battery problem with any of our deployed trucks, and this goes back to almost 10 years. So the life cycle of our trucks are at a minimum of 10 years with those battery packs. You can flip that screen too. This gives us our footprint of where we're at, what states we're in. As it relates to Kansas and Missouri, we have right at 50 trucks, and it's split 25 and 25 right now deployed in those two states. The East Coast and West Coast, of course, have trucks deployed, but the Midwest has several trucks deployed as well. And in Canada, our battery packs are designed to handle the cold weather. The way we actually design them in-house, they're battery cells that are integrated together throughout to make the battery pack. They connect to themselves, as well as have heating mechanisms through them that come on automatically in colder climates. So with the testing that we've done up in the northern states at 30 below, those trucks, they turned right on and had no issue compared to the diesels that were gelling up as we did our comparisons. So we were hitting the northern states, of course, the southern, the areas that have extreme heats. The trucks are air cooled on our retrievers, and therefore the batteries are able to get cooled down, and so the trucks will operate in all climates. Now to get into our return on investment, and I know Julie had touched on some of these portions of this. It can get complicated. We did an example here of the hours of 6,000 hours at a location. And it's important to do a site assessment for a customer. So we'll go in and do the site assessment. We'll understand how they operate today, how many shifts they run, how many breaks do they take within those shifts, and we'll break it down based off of the current gallons, dollars per gallon that they're paying today on diesel. And in this example, it's roughly $60,000 over a year. And then when you compare that to what our cost per kilowatt hour would equate to, which is 12 cents, you would come up with that annual cost to have an overall annual fuel savings. In this case, is right at $55,000 at the 6,000 hour example. And then on the maintenance and repair costs, we've got actual information provided to us from our customers like Laser Logistics that have come up with that annual per truck. And then when you factor in the reduced number for our Orange EV trucks on the maintenance and repair costs, in this example, we come up with a $14,400 annual maintenance and repair savings with a combined close to $70,000. We're seeing with our customers, we'll put a total cost of ownership together and lay what they pay today on a diesel versus what they would pay using an Orange EV truck. And the payback is generally closer to 2 years, but it's anywhere from 2 to 3 years. And it really depends on that span on how many annual hours that truck ran. A lot of our locations will run 24/7 without shutting down, and they can jump up to 8,000 annual hours, turn-on hours, if you will, and that would push the potential return on investment even lower, as we've seen. And this is without even using any kind of incentive. This is just, it does pencil out without an incentive. Of course, if there is a grant available, and that would have an impact on what the payback would be as well. So the faster payback comes right off of how often the truck is actually used. So we offer as well as purchasing our trucks, we offer a rental and leasing program. The rental program, it's a flexible. It's typically anything up to 36 months. That's on the high end. We see a lot of 1-year rental plans. We've seen a couple of 2-month rental plan while they're preparing to make a purchase of a truck to try it out. So they've got customized requirements to budget. If the customer does, then the purchasing vehicle or rental vehicle will be determined based off of the customer's needs. Of course, that would include the charger, the truck, and then any trainings required as well. On the leasing side, that typically is a 48-month up through it, even as long as 84. We've seen some customers requesting that. That is, but it's rare. Typically about 60 months is what customers are looking at. and that's setting at a fixed rate. And you can really budget. Those particular customers are looking at a financial budget to get an operating boost in behind them. So it does vary. It depends on that site assessment and the customer needs. So we'll break that down. Our sales team will go in and break that down with the customer to identify exactly, what makes sense and for that particular customer. And we have a lot of customers that will go from a rental into a leasing or from a rental into a purchase, just depending on the need. I will say also that we provide demonstrations to our customers so they can actually get a feel for, what the truck actually, how it performs, and they can tie in our telematics for that 1 week period or that 2 week period that they requested. And the telematics will show them exactly how the truck operated, how many kilowatts were used, how much savings was provided in comparing diesel fuel, and so on and so forth. So that's a big portion of what we show the customer bases through the demonstrations as well. So again, Chris touched base on a lot of these comparison items, the downtime difference. If we're at a 2% downtime compared to a 20 or 25% downtime on a diesel, that can make an impact at a distribution center, as an example. The drivers themselves, like everybody talked about this, and really this is probably one of the most important things to understand. There is no exhaust systems, there is no transmission. These trucks, they don't vibrate, they're not loud. They have a specific air conditioning system built into the cab, and there is no engine sitting underneath the seat of the truck. And so there's a lot of positive things that drive retention in drivers. And that was on one of the first screens that we talked about, slides we were talking about. But we've seen so many times that our customers will come up and tell us that, their driver retention has really made a turn. They've had individuals that were contemplating retirement and they decided to stay, some good drivers, because of the health improvements that they've seen across our utilizing our truck. So we're excited to have that portion of it. And then overall, there's two reasons that are driving what our sales or our deployments. Emission reductions, of course, is one. That's a version of green. But then the other version of green is the cost efficiency. And you can see where you can get a payback return on investment for the truck based off the savings of not having to purchase diesel, not having to have the high maintenance costs, and just part replacement, changing out an engine, changing out a transmission, having problems with the braking systems because we have regenerative braking and you hardly even use the brakes with this truck. You let off the gas pedal and the brakes or the truck will stop. So one more slide there, if you would. And finally, our driver testimonials. I know Chris had some of his up on his, but it is important for us to listen to our customer and listen to the guy on the front line or the lady on the front line, the drivers. And we've seen and heard so many positive things in the middle of the night or in the cold or in the heat. And it's just important that we're paying attention to that and keep trying to improve our product with the 80 engineers on staff. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. That was really great information. We have a few minutes for questions, and there were a few online, but I'll add it here, Darren and myself's contact information. And after the presentation, we'll see the resource mention as well as the contact information from our presenters. But we did have a few questions, and I wanted to get to them since we only have about 8 minutes left. Chris, one person just wanted to add that I think you could go ahead and color Iowa in on your map. I'm thinking Tucker Equipment up in Iowa will have or does have a truck. I'm not sure right now. So that was one note for you. But then we did have a question as well for Chris. In Laser's business model, what are the primary drivers for their customers to use an EV-based program versus diesel? What is the cost implications for your customers?
Yeah, great question. So, it really depends on the customer. We have some who are focused very heavily on trying to meet certain sustainability goals or targets. Let's say if they are participating in the CDP regime or science-based targets, et cetera. Maybe their company has made some public commitments and they're looking at ways of driving sustainability within their supply chain and their transportation and warehousing segments. And then we have some customers simply look at it from a cost standpoint. So they'll take a look at, with us, obviously, in consultation, could they save money and essentially insulate themselves from future fluctuations in the diesel spot market? Or perhaps they're hedging their diesel today and they say, well, we'd really like to just get out of the hydrocarbon energy market altogether. And so those are the two primary drivers that we've seen. In terms of the cost implications, really the two pieces. Number one, if they work through us, we take all of the responsibility of the truck and the charging cabinet itself off of their books. So that will not be on their balance sheet, which is obviously very attractive to a lot of organizations, turning that initial CapEx spend really into operating expense. And then the second piece is the capital component, which is related to the electrical infrastructure required to install the charging cabinet. And, that's a little bit more detailed of a conversation. A lot of it just depends on how many chargers you're looking at, what kind of, grid capacity you have at your facility, what kind of transformers and other switchgear and other equipment you have at your facility already, how much capacity you have available. But generally speaking, our customers typically see a return on investment in less than 2 years when they work with us. And I can tell you in some cases, we've seen returns on investment in as little as 8 to 12 weeks after we've deployed these trucks. And that's just a really phenomenal payback when you think about the kind of dollars that are involved in converting from diesel to EV. So hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you, Chris. I have two more for Chris or Darren, but I did want to get to Julie. This is a good question. A question is every unique in creating programs like this, or is this prevalent in across the country at other utilities? The type of programs, especially regarding to off-road vehicles, you all provide to your customers.
Yeah, that's really timely. We are looking to expand our program, so we have done some benchmarking across other utilities. And in fact, we looked at what we would call peer utilities, so utilities in our region, maybe in states that don't have zero emission stated goals, just to see kind of what is typical and what's best practice. And we are finding more and more utilities, regardless of if they're zero emission vehicle targets or not, are offering customer support. We design the rates so that they are grid friendly. So we want to incentivize off-peak charging. The rebate is there to assist customers, but also as a way to connect us. So if we are offering an incentive and it's a requirement to take a part of that incentive is to get pre-approval, you're connecting with the utility. And that's really is our ultimate goal, is to make sure that we're there with you early on so we can inform your project to hopefully inform it from your perspective and get insights on managed charging, but also help us and signal to us who's going to be electrifying and what their timeline is.
Thanks, Julian. One resource too to check out comparing what states do is ACEEE. They have state energy efficiency and utility scorecards in city. And now I will say I'd have to go look at the portion of the study to see how they engage with utility, because I know they score on part of that. Julie might have more info. Take a look. I'm not sure how exactly they get the information from utilities, but that has a good, mostly related to building efficiency, but there's transportation components and ACEEE scorecards about what other states and utilities are doing. But yes, F4G definitely offers great resources. We have two more before, if we have a quick minute, and these two could be for really any presenter or Darren and Chris. But is there a driving factor that is driving the Midwest adoption compared to the rest of the country? Since, as you mentioned, the Midwest is this, the EPA region is the second highest in adopting these trucks. Is there, I know on the coast there's often legislation that requires it, but any drivers in the Midwest, you could say?
I'll just speak to Laser's business. Frankly, it's been the partnership with MEC that I think has driven our ability to, really present an attractive return on investment model to our clients in EPA Region 7. And so I just thank MEC for your support there and your continued support. I'd be interested if Darren had any thoughts from Orange EV's perspective.
No, yeah, Chris, I would echo exactly what you said. There's other, organizations in parts of the U.S., in the upper Midwest, down in the South, like MEC, that our customers are able to communicate with to find out what plans are available for the end user or perhaps the actual user, because we have third-party trucking companies that are purchasing. We have manufacturers that are purchasing trucks. So our customer base does vary, but having programs like Metro Energy is so important, to getting price points and to getting the word out and to getting just a basic understanding of what we see here in the Midwest.
Thanks. I know we're out of time, but I just want to, if you have a minute, Chris, we're going to ask one more because I think it's an important one before we sign off. And again, we'll send all these resources and get the recording. But is there a trade-off of power between diesel solution and the EV solution? That's an important one. Definitely would probably want to address.
Yeah, great question. So what I would tell you is up until about this time last year, there wasn't necessarily a trade-off, but EVs weren't always the best fit based on load weights, et cetera. So if you were dealing with overweight loads, essentially in excess of 81,000 gross combined weight rating, EVs weren't necessarily the best fit. And they weren't necessarily the best fit if you were having to tackle any significant grade to the surface that you were driving on. So if you were typically trying to achieve 5, 6, 7% or greater grade, around a facility or on the road, that would be a bit of a challenge. That's been negated really by some of the higher voltage platforms that have come onto the market from several OEMs, and Orange EV specifically has come out with 2 different models just within the last 12 months that now tackle those challenges and can provide, payload capacities in excess of 150,000 pounds worth of pulling power, and can easily get up into that 9, 10, 11, 12% grade range. So I think those challenges are behind us from a technology standpoint, which is fantastic, and it really puts it in that position of, if it's economically viable to do so for somebody, EV makes a heck of a lot more sense than diesel in almost every single use case now when it comes to yard tractors.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you everyone for joining. I know we're out of time. Again, we will send out these resources as well as the contact info from our presenters. And if you have any questions, project ideas, whatever it may be, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for our presenters. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.